Kyle here from allmediareview.blogspot.com. Monday, August 1st. We're finally into August 2022. 15th anniversary of the 35W bridge collapse. In fact, just to truncate it as quickly, my memories were, and I posted this on Twitter, I was actually at an advanced screening of the Neil Gaiman movie, adaptation of his graphic novel movie, Stardust, in downtown Minneapolis. I remember because I work in Minneapolis, and I went an advanced screening, and we got out relatively early, I think. I crossed the 35W bridge that day. I don't remember what day of the week it was. I think it was a Wednesday or Thursday. And I was literally in the movie when everything happened, when the thing collapsed and stuff. And, I don't think I would have been going down there at that time necessarily, because, it happened, I don't know, like 5:30, 6 o'clock, right during rush hour. And the screening was at... Screening had to have been at like 5 or at 6 at the latest. So I was in there, I'm getting all these like phone calls, voicemails and stuff on my phone, and then I get out of it and I have no idea what's going on. I was like, well, what happened to you? Because my parents or whatever and my aunt couldn't get a hold of me and talk about the bridge, and I'm like, what are you talking about? So anyway, but I'm here to do Fates Warning album number 4 chronologically, and I'm going to do another one probably in just a minute as well. I didn't double check this. I think this is going to be, yeah. Alright, so their album that came out in 1988, I always think of it for 87, but no, it was released officially in March 23rd, 1988, with new singer Ray Alder. And I do have my booklet here, yeah. And I have the black CD. I didn't think about that. I do have my original compact disc I got in the 90s. I had it. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's in here. Anyway, here's the booklet. No exit. This is frustrating. It always comes out lighter than it. And I don't want my head cut off. My head always gets cut off as well. No Exit, March 23rd, 1988, with Ray Alder. The first album with him, the second album with longtime guitarist Frank Aresti, and the last album with original drummer Steve Zimmerman. Ray Alder came from Texas. Now, I don't know what city in Texas. I don't think he came from a big town. He was from like Dallas or something like that. I think he's from San Antonio, actually. Pretty sure. Yep. Totally right on with that. So, Fates Warning, known for being from Connecticut, from the Northeast. But John Arch had left the band for various reasons. From what I know, and I'm reading the book, I'm not to that point. I'm still I've gotten past the first album. I'm reading about the lead up to the second album, Spectre Within. But the lifestyle, he was kind of just struggling with. And also performance reasons, like stage fright, I guess, maybe, but largely it was the lifestyle of a rock star wasn't necessarily for him. Kind of a similar story to some other people like Kevin Moore and John Rutsey from Rush. That was the largest reason I remember reading, but I'm sure there's other reasons, maybe more accurate, more detailed reasons. But anyway, he left the band. I know it wasn't that smooth, but he left the band at that point, so they needed a new singer. And they took audition tapes, and Ray was a huge fan of John Arch and those Fates Warning albums, but he was only 19, so while the rest of the band members were not that much older, he was younger. But this album was, and I have it on because I got it on a lot of the Fates Warning albums when I first got into them in 1995, 96, 97. I had a lot of them on cassette tape, at least a percentage. I had this one, the one comes after it. I had most of those albums on cassette. But this one, to me, there's a lot of things I love about it. Let me just show my copies. So yeah, this is the one. I haven't shown the pictures that well, but yeah, you can tell Ray. You see the pictures of Ray right there. He just looks so much younger, but so yeah, I'm gonna forget about the black vinyl. But I have this. This was a big deal when I saw this. It was many years ago when I first started buying vinyl, about 10 years ago. I think it was cheapo. I found this picture disc. Now, I don't anticipate really ever playing this because picture discs are. This is a promo. are notable from '88. Maybe it was pressed in '88. Are notable as being just not very listenable, just because of that. You can't really see that very well there. Anyway, it's also No Exit. The album is based on a play, I guess, and I wasn't aware of that until I was reading through this. Yeah, 1944 play by French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. So, I don't know. Oh yeah, I should read more about this. There was something else I discovered was based on a film. So it's kind of funny how that happens. But I have then a couple more copies. A copy on vinyl here, just a standard copy. I don't remember the date on this. I think it was, like when I used to get my stuff at Cheap all the time, I used to always have the dates. When I get stuff on vinyl at other stores like Agarda, which I love that place, this doesn't have a date. So, but standard black Metal Blade Records. I believe this is the first pressing. Yeah. So and it has the insert that it was just similar to what I just showed on CD. Yeah. So I mean, again, this kind of better illustrator. Nice that Joe DiBiase's wearing the Roger Waters shirt, which I've developed some mixed feelings about Roger Waters, but I'm not going to go into that recently. I love Pink Floyd still, but so yeah, this came out in March of '88, which I was just saying because I think of when Awaken the Guardian was '86, and it was about, I think it was, if I remember what I read about when I was going through the last video, it was like about 2 years almost to the day or to the month or whatever. I think of when they got together was like '87, so this is a long time coming. Cause the whole thing about that, with John Arch leaving and everything, he was the lead singer and he wrote a lot of the lyrics. Here's one of the anniversary editions with the double disc, or does it come with double disc? I thought there's a bonus disc in this. I think it's pretty cool looking. This came out, I want to say probably 10 years ago at least. Maybe 2007. So it's like this 15 years ago, right around the same time as the 35W bridge thing I was just talking about. But so I probably should just get into it. This record is terrific. Now, this is one of the first albums I was listening to when I got into Fates Warning. My first impressions. My first impressions was probably Parallels. It was Parallels, Perfect Symmetry, and this. And then I got the compilation Chasing Time from memory. It was all within a short window of time. This comes with a bonus disc, has like demos and stuff like that, which some of those are on Spotify. I listened to this last week because of course it's been a week. That's why I'm not doing videos every day. I don't have time. But bonus DVD, live and behind the scenes footage from the No Exit tour. Also includes videos for They did an official video for Silent Cries and Anarchy Divine, as well as clips from the making of both. Right. And then the demo, bonus tracks, Quietus demo and I Brigade of Dreams, outtake 1. Yeah, so produced by Roger Probert. I mean, the best part of this, my favorite part of this record, as much as I really love this record a lot, is definitely the suite of the I Brigade of Dreams. Go figure, I'm a progressive rock and progressive metalhead. To me, that actually almost qualifies as like the first, in a lot of ways. I mean, I could probably do some more research, but you want to call something progressive metal because they were one of the first progressive metal bands. That's probably the first progressive metal epic or long extended piece, more than like 10 minutes or whatever. Because I mean, it was them and Queensryche. Sabotage wasn't really progressive metal. Watchtower, because I mean, you disclude Rush. Really was, and there's a lot of Rush to this album. Actually, the way they're blending acoustic sections, it reminds me. There's two albums. Well, no, it reminds me a fair amount of Hemispheres, almost in the way that this album is composed, except it doesn't have the long instrumental like La Via Strangiato. But Ivy Gates of Dream is Ivy Gates of Dreams is similar, sort of structurally. This prog epic suite that Hemispheres Book 1. You could talk about Jethro Tull, Pink Floyd, all the bands, Genesis, Supper's Ready, a lot of the bands that have other epics, but this is more metallic, and the way they weaved in these acoustic sessions, maybe Tull a little bit too. Just to go on to some of the other parts of the record, I always loved Anarchy Divine. Silent Cries is a very memorable song. You can see why they made a video for it. In a Word is nice. And actually, now re-listening to it again, I really love the progressive elements of Shades of Heavenly Death. Although there's a little bit of production issues I have at the beginning of it. By the end, though, the progressive, the time changes and sort of the way it builds, that's a terrific track. I keep on hearing echoes from that. But, I mean, my favorite parts of the actual Ivory Gates of Dreams suite, I mean, Quietus is still probably my favorite. That was released as like a last single, but like it was on the Chasing Time compilation. It's the most memorable, kind of grandiose, kind of highlight, uplifting part of the whole suite. But I mean, oh man, there's just Cold Days, Ivory Tower, Whispers on the Wind, Acquiescence. There's just memorable moments with the way they use like the dreamy elements and those acoustic sections with the really heavy. This is probably the heaviest, most thrash metal like Fates Warning album. And I think, Frank did a lot, but I still kind of harken back to this is one of Jim Matheos' first masterpieces. It just kind of foreshadows to so many other great works that he did. I mean, some of it was done previously on, the previous records at points, but it was kind of like they were leading up to writing this large epic, and they really embraced prog rock or prog metal with this, I think, more than they had the previous 3 records even. It has a lot of an 80s metal, almost. I was thinking like, it's been the next record too, like you want to say Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard, that hair metal element to an extent, and specifically with Ray. I mean, Ray Alder, John Arch fan, you can hear his influence from people like, your Bruce Dickinsons and Ronnie James Dio and Rob Halford, possibly, the way he was doing those falsettos. He was just screaming his lungs off. But I know he didn't write any of it. I mean, like, literally, I think his demo, when he auditioned, they had him sing the Ivory Gates of Dreams. I could be wrong about that. But, I mean, again, I haven't gotten that far in Jeff Wagner's book, Destination Onward. But when I do, then I'll know more specifically about that. But I would listen to this album often in the wintertime, that winter 95, 96. I'd put this on sometimes when it was cold, and it would be like this sort of... It reminded me of like that music that kind of warms you up, and like you feel like it's cold out, but it kind of... You draw and you're like conserving your warmth, and you're sort of on an adventure. It's about dreams, too. It's kind of a dream, nightmarish... I always thought of also like Nightmare on Elm Street and sort of like 80s horror was kind of creeping its way to an extent. Because horror, like heavy metal, especially 80s metal and horror, definitely have a lot of connections and soundtracks. The other thing I was going to mention, I didn't mention it on a previous video, is that movie with Crispin Glover, The River's Edge. I think Keanu Reeves was in it too, like a year or two before. Fates Warning had the song... I believe it was Kyrie Eleison from Spectre Within. So that's not really a horror movie exactly, but it's like a thriller. But yeah, I mean, before I got into any heavier rock or metal or anything like that, I always associated... I did like horror movies. I like Friday the 13th and, Halloween and the slasher movies. I watched a lot of those when I was a kid and growing. And so I kind of always associated a lot of the metal bands, the hair metal, with that kind of culture to an extent, and this album might be the closest they ever kind of reminded me of that. I mean, you could say the art stuff and the fantasy lyrics, but yeah, I mean, it's just some of the vocal lines, it's a dreamy sort of, it's like waking up from your nightmare, I mean, bands did it later. I was trying to think of Skid Row, and there were some other bands from that period of time that were just Slaughter and Damn Yankees. There's just all these bands like Tesla. Fates Warning had elements of that, but they were still more rooted in their influences with Maiden and Queensryche and Priest, Judas Priest, and some Anthrax and Accept and Slayer, the bands they were on Metal Blade with. But I always kind of had that element of like they're kind of in with those acoustic metal bands, like the hair metal bands, like even Extreme to a point, which they came up around the same time. So. But anyway, that's my take on No Exit. It's always been, and it still holds up. I don't know why it is. I love Fates Warning a lot, and I'll be going into it when I get into my rankings. But I've always had a super soft spot for this album, No Exit. And I mean, it's as much as it has its sort of dated sound to an extent, it doesn't bother me because the performances are so good. And I love Ray's voice, even though this is him maybe singing a little out of his range, the way he sounds. He was so raw and young. He was just going for it all, and a lot of times it really works on this album. I mean, the epic is just so good. I mean, it's one of my favorite pieces of music ever, especially in progressive metal. You look at the history of progressive metal pieces, especially long epics, this has to be sort of, in the history, one of the, if not the first ones I was saying, and like you could just rank them and stack them, and you know, the Ivory Gate of Dreams is right up there. So, anyway, what do you think of No Exit? Is it your favorite? Is it kind of down below, or was it a big? You know, I know a lot of the Arch fans weren't sure about it. A lot of them did, but you know, the style definitely kind of sounds like it would be for Arch. Arch could have sang a lot of this stuff to an extent. It sounds better because it was Ray. It was Ray's stuff, but I could see that it was definitely a transition album. A lot of their albums you can sort of reflect the last one. Marillion's the same way. A lot of bands do that, but I mean, you can sort of hear Arch elements, but you can also hear elements of where they would go. So, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.